Hello everybody, it is me, Gast, and we have a video. So this is going to be very different than what we normally do, which is usually Pokemon videos, and there's going to be a Pokemon video posted today. It was supposed to be posted about a week and a half ago, but I could not find, I could not get matches for it, and a bunch of my wins I had with this team I made were a bunch of quick forfeits, and if I made the video, it would be like a 4-minute video, and maybe 2 of the minutes, like half the time would have just been like a compilation of quick forfeits. So um, I've been getting more like footage over the week, so I have enough to make a video. So I'll probably be posting it today or tomorrow. Um, anyway, we have a Dead by Daylight tier list here, and I thought it'd be really fun to make. And I thought that I have enough expertise in the game to make a kind of valid and decent tier list. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do today. So I've been playing a lot of DBD. I have played a lot of DBD in the years. Only recently, though, well, recently is, it's a little, I'm kind of lying when I say recently. By recently, I mean over the last 2 years. I've been playing DBD a lot, and combined with my Xbox account and PlayStation account, I've probably racked up about almost 4K hours now in the game. So I feel like I'm pretty experienced enough to make like a kind of valid tier list. Anyway, let's begin. So, usually, I'm just gonna start with Trapper here because Trapper, ha ha ha, funny. Um, so Trapper's going in C tier. I don't really know what else I have to really say about Trapper. It's Trapper. You know, he has the nice advantage of on very specific maps. You know, he has some nice covering of his traps. You know, like on Yamoka, on Coldwind, it's kind of useful. Even on Greenwich, the Sable map. I'm forgetting the name for some reason. Um, kind of good on those. Like for more open maps, he's really good. On indoor maps, he's kind of beneficial because he can like really lock down areas, but he's always kind of struggled. And if you're going against even a duo, like if it's a full duo or even a 4-man Swift, you're gonna be having a really hard time because your traps are constantly gonna be reset. And if for whatever reason you're running a totem build, if it's two people, one's just gonna hold the trap and the other's just gonna walk over the trap. So it's gonna be a bad time for you as a trapper. So I don't think there's really much to say about Trapper. He really needs some buffs. He's really not in a good place, but honestly, I feel at the same time he's kind of in the best place he could be because I feel if they did some big changes to him, he could be a problem. But his job of being like a lockdown, like somebody that just lockdowns areas, I think he's really good at that. So I don't think he's bad at what he does though. So, but he's Trapper, so I can't really give him anything more. Wraith. Wraith is just going B tier. He's very average. He's honestly like I've always looked at Wraith as like the jack of all trades. Like he kind of falls into the same category of almost Legion with his add-ons. Like his add-ons kind of do a little bit of everything. Like they're not nearly as versatile as Legions because Legion like every single add-on does something different, which is absolutely ludicrous. But whatever. Um, I've really liked Wraith. I've been playing him a bit more recently. His lunge has always been really good. I've also found that you have to use that one purple add-on, the one that makes you like uncloak 12% faster. Like it's the only way you can really get certain hits off. Pretty fun mind games. Some fun interactions you can do with him. But he's kind of just like the jack of all trades. He kind of does everything. He has good mobility, pretty good stealth for what he can do. His add-ons like really allow him to be a bit more versatile, like Silent Bell, I guess. I mean, but Silent Bell really isn't that good because people can still see you, but whatever. But I've always thought that he's kind of like a jack of all trades, so I don't really see him being anywhere else than B. So Billy is a weird one. So I've that's really hard actually. I'm actually gonna put him S tier. Um, some people say he's A. Some people say he's S. I'm gonna say he's S. Ever since the rework, the Overdrive rework now, Billy is an absolute monster. I always personally felt that his Overdrive was slightly, and I mean very slightly overtuned, but because it was so overtuned, that also made it like a bit of a double-edged sword for Billy players like myself, because I've played Billy quite a few times. Because of how fast he goes, it makes it where certain like Billy curves you could do are no longer possible because you just quite literally move too fast. So even with max sensitivity and everything, and the problem is since I play on controller not PC, I can't do like absolutely crazy things with him. But it's always been like an issue as a controller player that he quite literally moves too fast where you can't do like 180 Billy curves. Like you can't go like around a tree and get someone behind you or something with while in overdrive because you just go too fast. But um, I'm excited to hear that they're going to be nerfing him slightly uh, next patch or whatever. So I'm hoping that makes. I think even though he's going to be a little bit slower, I think he'll actually go a little bit higher on S tier. He might even be third place on S tier. But yeah. So Billy's always been really strong. His low pro flicks are still absolutely disgusting. Uh, Lots of stuff that he can still do. Honestly, just nothing but all around amazing things for Billy. Even though he's still getting a nerf, he's still gonna be really strong. Nurse, top of S tier. If anybody knows Dead by Daylight at all, I don't think I really have to explain why Nurse is going at the top of S tier. She's Nurse, just goes through objects. Literally the best killer in the game. Almost no counterplay on Survivor side. Very, very bad for Survivor. And pretty much, even if you're a really good Survivor, you're basically turning everything into a 50-50. But the worst part is, even if you win the first 50-50, she has another 50-50 that she can win, possibly, with her second blink. So, yeah. Really good killer, really strong. Virtually no counterplay, but what are you going to do? Myers is this really weird case where, so this is going to be a weird placement, and I'm only putting him in B tier because of his add-ons. So, Myers as a whole isn't really that strong. Vandermeer is actually really underrated in my opinion. That can allow him to do a lot of crazy things, but because he is locked out of getting tier 3, that is a bit unfortunate. But what Myers really benefits that I found is his mid and late game are kind of strong. Specifically his mid game. His mid game is absolutely monstrous because at that point he's going to have a lot of stock up. His early game is the most miserable experience that I could really feel like you could have as a killer, unless you're paying like playing like Hag. Hag's early game is absolutely like it's so bad because you have to set up everything and then you have to wait for like 3 gens to pop before you can start doing a lot of like you can apply a lot of pressure, but it's whatever. Um, Myers always has always been like a really weird pick for me because tier 3 I've always felt is really strong, but because it's on the cooldown of the timer of 60 seconds, good survivors can basically make it where you never have your power for the entire game, and that's really unfortunate. And that's where like things like Vandermeer can like really help him against like really strong survivors. But a Myers player can definitely still get use out of their power, but unless you're running like Infinite Tier 3 or something, like I just don't see how you'll get like a lot of use out of his power in most scenarios because even with the vaulting speed increase, you can still make quite a bit of distance. So, but the only reason I'm putting him B, he's going to be at the very bottom of B tier, is just because of Infinite Tombstone, because those two perks are actually like gross. So that's like the only reason why he's in B. Otherwise, he'd be like very low D. That like maybe more like low to mid D, but his those two perks just quite literally, in my opinion, boost him up to B. So Hag is A tier. This is I've heard a lot of people have told me that they think Hag is B tier, but I am a full-hearted believer that Hag is A tier. Um, Hag is quite similar to Trapper in the sense she's really good at locking down areas and different loops. She has really good map traversal for being a 4.4 killer because she can just teleport all over the place. And her eerie add-ons and some of her purple add-ons I think are really unique. Like the purple hand, the oh my god, the oh my god, I can't think. The purple add-on she has with the hand that makes it where she her oh my god, I can't speak. her traps gain collision, so you no longer teleport, but they now gain collision. I think is a really interesting perk, and it has like a really interesting perk synergy with other of her add-ons. Um, but I've always found that Hag, even though she has a really bad early game, I found that she can apply a lot of pressure and really far around the map with her teleports. And even a good coordinated team is going to have a problem against Hag because it's really annoying, even being a coordinated team, needing to go get your other three teammates to go to every single spot on the map just to get rid of your traps, just so you have no power for the chase. So, you know, it's a bit annoying, but I've always found that she's pretty good. She's good at applying pressure all over the map. She has good map mobility because of her teleport. Um, I've never really felt like she's lacking in anything really. She does have some macro problems, but I don't really see her being an issue. I can see her being B. I just feel like she applies a lot of pressure for a killer of her caliber. Being a trap or a lockdown killer, I think she's exceptionally well as even a chase killer if you've set your cards out right. So I'm gonna put her in A. Doctor is B tier. Doctor, I've always found as useful as it is to like just stop survivors from vaulting, dropping pallets and everything and whatnot. I've always found it very unrewarding in a way because I've always felt that his shock just deploys a little bit too late. Like, have you ever been in a scenario where like they're about to reach a window vault, right? And you pre-shock and you see it go up, but it doesn't actually hit them yet. And then they make the window vault and then they scream like midway during the vault. Most annoying thing ever. Because you just missed it. And like you just missed it by like half a second. But what are you gonna do about that? Like, like it's really unfortunate and it's not super hard to catch a survivor trying to dodge your shock, but the problem that I've always found with Doctor is because there's like that window of when you like actually use your shock therapy and when they get stunned. I've found the window just a little bit too long, and I feel like that sets Doctor back a bit in that regard. But I do think he has quite a bit of potential. He has really nice perk synergy. He gets the nice added bonus of having info built into his base kit. He can stop you from interacting with things. He can stop you doing your objectives, which I think is really good. So he basically he has like base kit like semi slowdown. Granted, it's not very good slowdown, but he does have base kit slowdown. He has base kit information, which is super underrated. I think his base kit information is really good actually. Like it's not super crazy, but I do think it's pretty good. Um, so I think he's just kind of B tier. Like I don't see him being D tier personally, because I feel like there's a few things that he has going for him. Um, so I'm gonna keep him in B. Maybe if I play him a bit more and if I have problems with him, I might change my decision to like high D. But personally, I see him in B tier. Uh, Huntress is actually is she S tier? I mean, she does have 7 hatchets. Well, I'm gonna put her at the bottom of S tier, and that's mainly because she's gotten some buffs. Her buffs were really good in my opinion. Um, 7 hatchets is actually ludicrous, and she basically is old DBD's machine gun huntress. And I actually tried that out a few months ago, and it was actually so fun. Like it was like I was playing original DBD again, and I haven't felt the joy of playing old DBD in, well, I don't know, like a long time. But it kind of reminded me of the old days when you had Machine Gun Huntress with like old Tinkerer, um, and whatnot. So I always really liked it. Uh, I think she's really strong still. Trying to think like any really big things. Like obviously, like the fact that she's a 4.4 obviously hurts. Like you do have to play certain tiles pretty well, but I think she's still really strong and she has a lot of potential. Um, at any point in the game, I don't think she really lacks at any point. Um, her add-ons are pretty fun. Uh, like honestly, I just think she's like a really strong, well-rounded killer in my opinion. Like I think she kind of does a bit of like I think she kind of hits all the marks of what I would have wanted in like a long range killer. And I really like Huntress. Like some people, I'm sure like if anybody does see this video, they're like, oh, I don't know, man. Like I'm pretty sure she belongs in A tier. But I want to remind you, she has 7 hatchets now, and like I know that's like a 2 increase. It's like, oh, it's only 2, but like that's a lot. That's a big difference there. Like that's literally 1 hatchet away from being able to down the entire team. Like that's a lot of hatchets, man. So I personally see her being S tier, granted at the very bottom of it, but I can't. I personally don't see her being anywhere else. Bubba, um, oh, that's hard. So, that's really hard actually. I'm gonna put him at the very bottom of B tier. So, my thing with Bubba is that I think he's a really fun killer to play. There's a lot of fun mind games you can do. There's a lot of things like that, but I've always felt he struggled at shorter loops. And like even like mid to short loops, he's always struggled. If there's a window, he's gonna have a bit of a hard time playing around that. And good survivors, I found are really really good. And granted, this is just because like I don't play Bubba, so maybe Bubba players like know how to beat this. But whenever I play Bubba, I've always found that I've struggled when I'm playing at TNL walls or something because it's really hard to play around those, even with the fact that you can move faster while you're doing a chainsaw sprint. Um, I've just found that playing at like TNL walls or like the junk pile walls tile the junk tile wall the junk tiles where it's like you have uh, the vault on one side. On the other side, there's that pallet. I've always found those are kind of hard to play with when you're going against a good survivor. Oops. I've always found that they're playing it really well. Um, that's just me. I think he's B. I think he's still a pretty strong killer. Like he does have some weaknesses that kind of hold him back, but I think overall he is pretty strong. Freddy. Freddy goes into Freddy tier. Uh, I don't really think I need to talk about Freddy. Like he's honestly just he's really unfortunate about Freddy, and I've been going against quite a few Freddys recently, and every single game has kind of fallen under the same thing of what happens is the Freddy does not have a good early game because it's Freddy, and he doesn't have a good middle game because he's Freddy, and he doesn't have a good late game because he's Freddy. And what I mean by that is that his snares do basically jack shit. And that's not Freddy's fault, to be fair. That's like every single player's fault. But at the same time, that's also the dev's fault. And what I mean by this is unlike Trapper's bear traps, is the hitbox for Freddy's dream snares are so small. And what I mean by that is you can basically like just creep around like half of his dream snares that he places. And because of that, it makes it like basically impossible to play them at like almost every single loop in the game because I feel like how behaviors intended you to play new Freddy, like current Freddy, is that you place your snares before like a little bit ahead of a pallet so the hindrance actually does affect the survivors. Um, but it that just doesn't happen because you can't do that because the survivors will literally just walk around it by like one nanometer and they won't get affected by it, and then they basically lose like almost no distance from just going that little bit to the right or left, and they still make it to the pallet. So I've always found that his dream snares are very underwhelming. Also, it doesn't help when like every single Freddy player places them on every goddamn pallet in the entire map, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. So I've never really thought that Freddy's really been super strong. I've actually really liked his teleport, but it's just so slow. And I feel like I wouldn't have that much of an issue against it being so slow if you had like an added benefit. So like if you were like to cancel it or something, like you didn't have to wait as long, or if you did commit, maybe you got some sort of like lunge or like speed boost like Sadako gets when she gets out of her TVs. Like if you gave that to Freddy, I feel like his teleports would be a lot more utilized and they'd be a lot more valuable. Because I just don't feel like his TPs just give you much value personally. Like I just don't think they're that strong, and like they just give the survivors so much time to hold W and make distance, and that's kind of the main reason why I don't think his TP is that strong. Because it's just like it's almost like a lose-lose situation because you teleport. Like this is the thing, right? Like you commit to the teleport and the survivor makes it to like 4 states over because they have so much time to react. But if you fake the TP, right, then it's still a lose-lose situation because now you're on like cooldown for like 10 seconds, but it feels like 30 years for Freddy, and you still have to like now make new distance. So I just feel like it's a lose-lose situation for Freddy personally. But I feel like they could do some things to Freddy, like change his dream centers where they have bigger hitboxes. Maybe their effect is a little bit more impactful, things like that. But I just don't think Freddy is like really good at all. Um, Actually, while I'm here at Freddy tier, I'm just gonna put Skull Merchant there. Uh, right now, I would say Skull Merchant is very high D or like lower than Bubba because Skull Merchant is just basically a glorified M1 killer. And I've been playing Skull Merchant recently, and the problem is the reason why you'll see people like um get like 4Ks and whatnot when they play Skull Merchant is because people don't know how to play against Skull Merchant, and that's the unfortunate part because I've always thought that Skull Merchant, even now, I've thought she was still a pretty cool killer. Um, but the problem is, since nobody plays her, she's like an extinct species. Nobody quite knows how to play against her unless you actually play Skull Merchant. Then you'll know. But if you don't, the problem is that at every single loop, instead of the survivor just crouching to avoid the drone, they just eat it. They take the 3 lockdown, like the lock-on stacks, and they take it with pride. And I do not understand what goes through their mind. Like as the survivor, right? Like when you're thinking about this, right? Why would you rather be put into the broken status with the hindrance effect and being able to be tracked to your exact location over just taking an M1 to the face and making distance to a new loop, right? Like I've never understood that. Like I'd say 90+% of the games that I play as Skull Merchant, I'd say I've only seen like maybe 10% of the players just crouch instead of eating the lock on stacks. Like it's so crazy because those are the only people that know how to play against her. And because of that, I just feel like people that play against her make her pretty weak. That's why I'd say she's like maybe even D tier. But like against like players that don't know, she's definitely B tier, like maybe mid B. But the reason I'm putting her in Freddy is because of the rework that she's getting, or the buffs or nerfs, however you want to look at it. Because she's going to be absolutely dog shit. She's F tier for Freddy. F is for Freddy, by the way. So, yeah, she's definitely going to be F tier. If the changes do go through with the PTB, I'm praying they don't, because if they do, behavior actually fucking out of your mind. I don't know what to say. But, yeah, that's kind of all I have to really say for Skull Merchant. Um, I don't remember all the changes that they're doing to your PTB, but they're like removing her hindrance, her speed, and I think they're changing something about her drones. I think she only has like 1 line now or something. So I don't even remember what the buff is because I remember there was like a buff she was getting to try and compensate for this, but I don't think it's even worth it. But that's kind of it. So, Pig, Nerf Pig. Pig is D tier. Um, I've actually really liked Pig, but I, I just it's really unfortunate because they have like they did like a little buff to Pig. You know, now her ambush is better and she has other things, but now she can't see the art of the boxes, which is really hurts her honestly. But honestly, like with the whole party hat changes over the years and everything, like I just don't think she's that strong. Her ambush is still very weak. unless you're going against like a survivor that doesn't hold W. Like otherwise, then you're gonna have a great time using your ambush. But most of the time, they're just gonna hold W and they're gonna make so much distance. So it's I don't really know. Like there's a lot of things that Pig. I've always I really like playing as Pig. Like I've always found her a really fun killer, but she's just really not that good. She's like always struggled in her own ways. Like the fucking terror radius she has does not help her at all. Like, and I still have no idea why she still has that big ass terror radius. I do not understand. But anyway, I just feel like Pig has a lot of things. Like she has a lot of potential. I've always thought with Pig, but they don't ever capitalize on it and they don't give her the buffs that she really needs. Like right now, she's not like a horrible killer. Like I'm not gonna say she's like, oh my god, she's fucking, she's just as as bad as Trapper or whatever, right? Like I'm not gonna say that, but I definitely think that she needs some buffs, like to her party hats, maybe her ambush, maybe make it the duration like a little longer so you can get more distance or something. I don't really know because I truthfully don't really know how to fix Pig. Uh, I really liked how she was when she came out. You could have made a few tweaks, like because some of the things she had were not fair, like the blocking of the boxes and whatnot was really messed up. So I'm happy they made that change. Like there were a few things they could have done, but I just don't think they needed to do what they did to Pig. She's been gutted, and the same thing they're going to do to Skull Merchant, which is unfortunate. So yeah, Clown. Uh, I'm actually gonna put him at the very top of V tier, and there you go. I actually love Clown. He's one of my favorite killers to play, aside from Blight. Um, I've really liked Clown. I've always thought he's really fun. I think he is one of the best like 1v1 killers in the entire game. His yellow bottles are so good. A lot of like a few people I know, they're like, oh, it's not that much. It's only 10%. But I'm like, man, like that 10% was like the difference between you being able to make it to the pallet or not. Like that single 10% you get is like the difference between somebody making it to the vault and like shack or not, right? Like it's really valuable. Um, Clown kind of sucks though. At the same time, he his incredible strength of being, I think, an amazing, like, of exceedingly strong chase killer, is absolutely dwarfed by the fact that this guy, his map pressure is worse than my grandmother in a wheelchair. Like this guy, his map pressure is one of the most abysmal map pressures I'd say in the entire map. Like fucking Ghostface has better map pressure than fucking Clown, and he has built-in slowdown. Like that's how bad this guy's map pressure is. Like at least with Ghostface, you can just 99 everybody, right? And then like when the gen's about to pop, you just absolutely just murk him and expose everyone, right? Like that's his map pressure. But like Clown, he's got none of that. He's not very like he cannot traverse big maps very well. He is like you need to have really good chases with him. You got to get downs fast to get good value with Clown. Like your chases are going to be really good, but they might not necessarily be fast because for most of the time you're going to have to do double bottle setups. And even with your pink bottles, like sometimes there's a chance the survivor might make it if like for whatever reason, like they might make it to a loop still or like a tile. It's like there's a lot of things that can still go wrong with Clown, even if you're playing very optimally. So, and that's really because of his map pressure. The fact this guy has zero map pressure is so bad. So yeah, I genuinely think a roly poly would have better map pressure than Clown. So I don't really know. I'm putting him in B though because I still think he's a really strong killer. I think he's one of the best at what he does, being like a chase, like a one on one chase oriented killer. I think he's amazing at that. I think he does exceedingly well. I actually say he's even better in one on one chases, better than even Blight. Not as good as Nurse, obviously, but I'd say he's actually even better in that regard than Blight. So, which is honestly kind of a hot take, I will admit. But going on. So, Spirit, I'm actually putting it at the top of A tier. Uh, I don't think that Spirit is nearly as good like I still think she's a really strong killer. Um, I the only thing that I think kind of holds her back ever so slightly is how loud she is. Like when she's phasing, obviously it needs to be loud, but if it was like maybe like 10% quieter or like even 15%, I think that could be like personally the difference of making it S or A for me because like currently I just feel like as the survivor, they have so much time and opportunity to react based on the sounds. And like I know that's like a lot of people are like, oh, but she's so fast. And granted, yes, but like because the noises are so loud, it's like Dredge, right? Like even if you're not in Dredge's terror radius, you still know he's coming because of the whooshing noise he makes, right? So like I think it kind of falls into the same category. But I think she has a really strong power, really good anti-loop. I think she's a really strong killer. I just think the only reason why I'm not putting her in S tier, that when some people might, is just because of how loud she is. But that's it. Legion. D tier. So, a lot of people might disagree with that, and I understand why. But at the same time, Legion is literally just an M1 killer. That's all he is. It's not like if he had an iridescent, right, that made it where like he could injure people, like he could actually down them without getting the 4 hits or something. Like if he had here's my idea of like an iridescent for him. You can still down somebody. How do you with your four or like your fifth hit or fourth hit, but it'll like go down for like every survivor dead. So like if there's 4 survivors, you have to get the 5 hits to down somebody. If there's 3 survivors alive, you have to get 4 hits. So on the fourth hit, it will be dead, and so on until there's one survivor, and then it just won't down anymore. Like I feel like that would make him so much better as a killer, but also that makes it like really like it makes it a lot stronger for like it gives the survivors way more incentive to be like to stay away from Legion because like you know but like I just like the only reason I think I'm even putting him this high is because like I personally think he's C tier because like he's literally just an M1 killer. Like this is Legion gameplay. All right, I'm running at you. Oh, survivor there. Let me tell you. Ah, shit. Everyone's on the other side of the map. Well, I guess I'm just gonna have to stay here and just come in and be an one killer. Oh well. So that's basically that's Legion gameplay. Um, that's the unfortunate part about him. He's always kind of struggled with the fact that any survivors that have been playing the game for like more than like 4 weeks, like more than a month, will be like, "Oh, wait a sec, it's a Legion. Like maybe we shouldn't all be like huddled together unless like when we're going against like a Death Slinger or something." So I just don't think he's really that strong. His add-ons are absolutely crazy though. Like it feels like every one of his add-ons do something else. He has like a built. I think he has like a built-in Franklin's one. Oh no, or is that twins? It's either twins or him that has like a built-in Franklin's demise. Like he has built-in like sloppy butcher. He has built-in spirit fury. Like he has like everything. Like this guy has every single tool at his disposal. Like it's so crazy. And honestly, I have no issues with him having so many different things. And I think that is kind of what puts him for me in D tier. But I just don't find him strong as a killer. I don't think his power is very good. Like, I just find it's very hard to get value, and I just don't think it's very rewarding to play as Legion. That's just me. Uh, Plague. Plague is going over here behind Clown on B tier. I've always thought that Plague has been actually, yeah, no, I'll keep her there. So Plague has always been an interesting one as well. To me, I've always really liked this, like the idea behind Plague, but I think in actuality, it makes it significantly harder for her, and that's strictly because of her power. So as cool as her power is, everyone becomes broken because your power is basically dependent on survivors cleansing. A good survivor squad or like people that have played the game, they're just never going to cleanse. So you're just again, you're once again an M1 killer for the entire match. So I feel like, granted, this is a crazy idea, but I think the only way to fix that is to give survivors an actual time limit, saying like after a minute and whatever, like you'll fucking die. I don't know. Maybe you don't die. Maybe you get like down, like you get knocked down, but you also get the effect of knockout for like I don't know, maybe like 20 seconds. So it's really hard for survivors to find you or something. But the fact that there's literally no real downside except for just being like exposed for the entire match is so fucking unfortunate because she has no mobility. She has nothing like that. It's like it's really unfortunate. So, like, I just don't think, like, her power I think is really cool, but the fact that, like, survivors actually get a net positive for not doing their objective of cleansing themselves, which actually just makes it worse for you, I think is so dirty as a killer. Like, I think that it's actually worse, like, sometimes it feels like to infect survivors sometimes because it's like granted I always do, but like I just feel like it's just not rewarding to infect survivors because then like you infect them, it's like okay now they're all broken, but like now I'm an M1 killer now for the rest of the game. So I don't know. I just don't feel like her power because there's like no downside to staying having the sickness for the entire match. I just don't think there's like a lot of net positives. I still think she's a really strong killer though. So yeah. Ghostface top maybe I don't know. I'll just put him at the bottom of B for now. Not super strong. Again, just an M1 killer. His expose mechanic is pretty good. Like it's really fast. The only problem I have with it, but this is like a survivor skill issue, and this is actually just a skill issue on me. I swear to God, you cannot fucking expose this guy for shit. Like, you can only expose this guy if you're fucking looking at him while doing a somersault. Like, you have to be doing, like, fucking gymnastics to reveal this guy. Like, looking at him with your camera does not do shit. Like, the only way you'll fucking be able to reveal this guy is if you're looking through, like, a kaleidoscope and then you see him through the kaleidoscope. It's so weird. Like his revealing mechanic just doesn't feel like it works like at all, and I just don't like it. Uh, he's kind of weak in chase. Like even with the exposed, because it's only a minute. Like if it was like a minute and a half, I feel like that'd be a lot better. But like a minute, I just feel like isn't that super strong. He's just a glorified M1 killer that you just have to be a little bit more safe around because you'll be exposed. But that's kind of it. Uh, Demi, I'm gonna put at the top. Actually, I'm gonna put him at A tier. Uh, which is a really really weird choice. And the only reason I'm putting him at A tier is because of Sky Demi. So I've been seeing some videos recently of like Sky Demi being still possible, and because of that, I actually think it makes him really strong because it like now allows him to like completely now shut down certain loops if he has like the height advantage at, before he gets to the loop. So he can just shut down like straight up tiles completely, which I think is really ridiculous. Uh, I think his lunge attack is pretty good. His teleport, I think, is quite strong. Um, Not nearly as strong as Dredges or Singularities, but it is still pretty strong in my opinion. Being able to teleport anywhere on the map with just a portal that takes like not even like 2 seconds to place down. So I think he's a pretty strong killer. Uh, his lunge I think is pretty good. I wish it was like maybe like a little bit farther, like maybe if it was like 15 or like even 20% farther. Actually, 20% is a little bit too much. So maybe like 10 or 15%. I feel like he would be really, like, he'd be perfect. Um, because sometimes it just feels like you should get the hit, but you just barely miss it. And, like, I hate that feeling. But I think he's a pretty strong killer all around. And because of Sky Dummy, I think he's an A tier just because, like, he's really good at shutting down certain loops. Oni's going A tier. Honestly, like Oni is like I'm trying to think of like he's like basically Blight mixed with Hillbilly. So he's basically like Hug Tech Blight, but if he had the instant down potential of Hillbilly, that's what Oni is. So Oni's early game is really rough, but his mid and late game is an absolute monster. The fact he slides off of every object without any issues is amazing. He's still really strong, even with him losing his 180 flicks. I still think he's really strong with his 90s. I don't really. I think he's like honestly like the most balanced killer in the entire game. I don't think there's anyone that's more balanced than him. Like when I initially said like Wraith is the jack of all trades, I think that's a pretty much more Oni if anything. Like he has good mobility and power, an amazing power, and a very high skill ceiling in my opinion, and it really rewards you for like being creative with Oni too. So really strong, I think personally. I think Oni's really good. I don't think he's S tier, but I think he's 100% an A tier. I just don't know if I would put him above Spirit, but he definitely belongs in like top one or two spot for me. Deathslinger is, I think, a little bit stronger than Plague. Um, he has really good distance. The fact that he can shoot through like gaps with like nothing, I think, is absolutely ludicrous. Same thing with Huntress, where they can shoot and like get hits through like really small gaps. Like I think I saw this one clip on Reddit a few months ago. It was like on Azrov's, and like like there's where how there's like the pile of crushed cars, and like the guy, he shot through the gap of the two stacks that were beside each other and he got the hit. Like I think that's actually crazy. Like I think like a really good Deathslinger player could do some actually like filthy shit. Like they're cracked at this game, and I think it really rewards them with playing like that. uh I honestly think that Deathslinger is a really strong killer. Like he has his own problems. Like he kind of falls into the same category of of having issues with map mobility. Like I've always found he's always had like issues with map mobility, but I'm totally fine with overlooking something like that because I just think he's still a really strong killer. Like he has his own things. Like he's really good at the 1v1. He's pretty good at snowballing. uh, but I think he's like a really strong killer personally. I don't think he's crazy strong, but I think what he does, he's really good at it. So yeah, I'm gonna just kind of keep him there because I think that's a really fair place to keep him at. But yeah, I don't think there's really much else to say. Um, Pyramid Head, going at the bottom of A tier. Pyramid has also always been like this case of like, oh, like I've always kind of thought he's always been like really good. Like, he has good information. He has built-in Mori, like a quick Mori that's really strong. Like, he kind of just, again, does like a little bit of everything, which I've always liked. There's nothing really wrong with him as a killer. I don't think he's like crazy overpowered, but I also don't think he's really underpowered. His ability is really good. It also kind of forces survivors to like go to their way to go for cages, and also like it kind of makes them not wanna like go to get possible condemned, not condemned, to walk into your barbed wire, because if they walk into it, they'll be sent to a cage, which has the added benefit of it being really easy to get you out of it. Yes, but it at the cost of you basically being like, if you're downed and you're on third hook, like it's really easy for him to apply pressure because like the Mori, I think, is the fastest Mori in the game. He just slaps you with his broadsword or whatever, and you're just dead. So I think his power is really strong. It's still gonna be kind of hard to hit survivors, but you can do some good, nice like prediction shots with him. Uh, I just think he's a really strong killer. I think he's also pretty balanced. Like, I think he doesn't really lack in any specific area. And he does have good like map pressure with the cages and whatnot because they'll be in like possibly weird spots. And if you're really good at the game, and if you're good at knowing where like cage locations are, you can maybe abuse that and just cause like the survivors to run around the entire fucking map just trying to get the cage because you just keep approaching and it'll just teleport somewhere else. So who knows? Blight, uh, as a Blight player, this is going to be a little biased. I'm putting him above Hillbilly, and the reason why is because I think Blight does significantly better at tiles that have more than just one wall. Uh, Billy has the nice bonus of like I'm pretty sure he's actually faster than Blight in Overdrive, I think. But I've always found that the fact that Blight can just bump off of objects and just like completely turn where he's going is so valuable, and it's so good against like players that are playing like a TNL or like a double T wall, like the one that there's two T's and like they both have vaults. Like he's really good at playing those. Blight versus Hillbilly, Hillbilly struggles against those, I think, in my opinion. Um, I think they have their own strengths and weaknesses. I think Blight's better at Hillbilly at things. I think Hillbilly's better at Blight than things. But I don't see Blight ever leaving S tier, at least not in how he currently is. He's just so good. Like I just can't really think of any reason why he wouldn't be in S tier. Like he doesn't even need bump logic. Not bump. He doesn't even need hug tech. Honestly, like he's just that good. Like bump logic was always the superior way anyway, so like it didn't really make sense. Hence why people were complaining that they got rid of hug tech. I guess they were just used like they only used it. But like bump logic's always been better. He's still like an absolute monster in chase. DS is not a fucking problem unless you're like at Shack, then it might be a little bit. Then they might make some distance, but like 90% of the time when like somebody DSs you, you don't even have to worry about it because you'll just catch up in like 3 seconds. So yeah, he's still an absolute like monster. He's a madman. Uh, Blight's still cracked. They haven't nerfed his flicks or anything. The only way I could maybe see Blight losing S tier is if they nerfed his flicks or they made him significantly slower. But I don't think he'll ever leave S tier, at least not in like the foreseeable future. Twins, Twins, I'm gonna put in B. Uh, so Twins is pretty good. They have really good snowball potential. There's a lot of cool techs you can do with Victor by using him to body block pallets or just block off completely doorways and forcing the survivors to not go the optimal route, which is really strong. Victor's pounce is pretty good. Their add-ons are pretty nice. Honestly, I don't really think there's much more. Like, I think they're just a very solid. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in front of Doctor. And yeah, actually, I'm going to put you in front of Bubba. So that's what I would do. Uh, I think Twins is pretty strong. Trickster is like honestly, I feel like he's probably one of the most high risk, high reward killers in the entire game. Personally, uh, like I think he's no, I think he's like B tier. Maybe like I think he's better than Ghostface. He really capitalizes on patience. So if you're patience as a killer, you're gonna love playing Trickster because you have to be really patient with your knives. You also need to be very optimal with your knives. You basically can't miss any knives if you want to be good with him. Uh, the fact that it takes like it feels like 30 years for your laceration effect to start going away when you get hit by a knife is so good. So it feels like you're never really losing it unless you're going against like an absolute god at the game. Uh, what else? Like the fact he's a 4.6 now is actually disgusting. It's now he can really capitalize. So now there's really not a big problem if like he's like using the main event on you and like he doesn't get you down. The cooldown it feels like nothing. Like it feels like you finish throwing your knives like you failed your main event down and then you're just right back in the game. That's what it feels like because he's a 4.6. So he moves really fast still, easy to come back. I think he's still really strong, and even at like taller loops, I think he has a lot of mind game potential there with survivors not wanting to get hit by their knives and being like forced out. So I think he has some kind of nice mind game potential. Uh, Also, by the way, sorry for my voice. I'm very sick. Nemesis, I think he's like, I think he actually might be top B tier now. So with the rework, like before, I'd say he's like D tier, but now with the hindrance buff and everything, I think he's actually really strong. He gains mutation rates so much faster. Like in like one or two chases, you can get to tier 2 already. It's so fast. It's really strong. His zombies, I feel like obviously this is just like a placebo, but I feel like his zombies are way stronger. They just feel like they've been in much better spots, like spawning locations recently. Uh, his add-ons, Excuse me. Sorry. His add-ons, the like liquor tongue and whatnot, are really good now. Like the hindrance is also insane. Like the hindrance just like guarantees you to get like a follow-up hit after you infect somebody. That's what it feels like, at least. The liquor tongue like basically just sets that in stone. I think he's a really strong killer. Like not super strong. I think he's much better than he was. And I also just really like how easy it feels to get into your like next mutations and like your next level of mutation. Pinhead is super underrated, I think, as a killer. I'd say he's like over here. I'm gonna play. Can I place him? Thank you. That's where I'm placing him. Right here. Uh, I think he's really strong. He has an absolutely ridiculous anti-loop. His chains have always been really strong. Box, if you know box logic, it's you're like you're cooking, man. Like you're good. Like box logic is so good. Like he's really strong, I think. Uh like he has really good passive like map slowdown. He has really good map presence. He has good map mobility with a really good teleport. Granted, somebody has to do the objective for you to gain the teleport, but I still think it's really good. I've always feel like he's always in the action, and I also just feel like he's really good at deterring survivors from doing their main objectives and making them go on side quests because he has the box. If you run hex totems on him, there's so many things that like survivors have to do to deal with Pinhead, and I think he's one of the best when it comes to like general map slowdown as a killer because of how strong the boxes, and because like the guy has like 20 different side quests the survivors have to do first before they can beat the main game. That's what it feels like. But I think he's really strong. I think he has really good chase power. uh he's very high risk high reward though, because if you miss your chain, then you're gonna be on cooldown, and you also lost like 24 light years worth of distance. But I think he's still really strong. uh Artist, I'm also gonna put in A tier. Uh, I'm gonna put her above Pinhead. Her crows, I think, are quite oppressive. Uh, the fact that lockers get rid of them instantly is kind of a bummer, but I still think she's pretty strong. Uh, Forgive me. I'm so sorry. I'm yawning. I still think Artist is really strong. Her crows, I feel, are very oppressing in certain scenarios. Um, it feels like she always has some sort of map presence, and it always feels like you're always like trying to get rid of her birds. It feels like, and if you're in chase, you're gonna honestly have a bad time against a good artist. Like they're just gonna like put their crow at like the face of a pallet, just absolutely like it's gonna be hard. Like you're gonna have to do a lot of holding W. But the worst part is about artist players is then they're just gonna put a crow at your exit way, so you can't even hold W to escape. So like it's I think she's really strong though. I think she's really strong in the 1v1s. Good map pressure with her crows. I think she's like the best long range killer technically, because you can injure people with her crows. So you can injure someone across the map or on a gate. So for those reasons, I actually think she's in technically the best like long range killer in the entire game because of that. But I think she's actually pretty strong. Oh man, I'm talking a lot. So Onryo is uh is B tier. Um, Actually, I'm gonna put her a bit lower. She's not super strong, but she's pretty useful. So Onryo, I think she's since they changed how her condemn stacks work, I think she's a lot weaker now. It's because a lot of players they would just like farm up condemn stacks and then that's game over. It's GG. But now they changed it so you can't do it the same way. Like it's still pretty effective, but it's not nearly as good as it once was. But Sorry about that. So I so now it's a bit different. Her her map mobility is really strong. I find the TVs are really good. The speed boost you get when you get it out of a TV, I think, is amazing. Uh, the cooldowns for TVs are pretty fair. They're pretty generous, honestly. But she is just again like an M1 killer. The fact that she can't get stunned while she's demanifested is pretty neat. Actually, I think that's a really underutilized ability sometimes. But I think she's pretty. I think she's all right. I don't think she's like crazy strong. I don't think there's anything like that. I just think she's kind of just pretty much all around pretty good. So this is gonna be the hottest take of the entire video. Dredge is going straight to A tier, baby. So this is an insanely hot opinion. Like this is a crazy hot take, and I'm gonna tell you why. So before the Dredge change, I would say he was B, maybe even D tier. But with the buffs, this guy is a monster. Like the Remnant is, I think, the best anti-loop in the entire game. I've been playing a lot of Dredge. If you've been watching me on Twitch at all, I do play a lot of Dredge. I think he's really fun, but I think the Remnant is honestly the most oppressive anti-loop in the entire game. He can basically like win any type of like any type of tile, and at the worst case scenario, he makes like pretty much every loop of 50-50, which is crazy to think of. Like making almost any loop of 50-50 is amazing. He can just shut down god palettes technically if you play it really like really strangely, but he can do that if you so desire. Like I think he's really good. The teleport is like Nightfall is absolutely fucked. It's so good. Like like not even like a 2 second recharge on your remnant's crazy. Excuse me, like a 3-4 second recharge on your teleport, which feels like it's instantaneous. The teleporting itself, absolutely crazy. And the fact that now with the buff, his teleport is faster base kit than old with old boat key is the craziest shit I think I've ever heard. Like he feels so fast to teleport during the day now. Like it actually feels good to teleport. Like it doesn't feel like it's actively costing you distance now. But I personally think he's one of the best chase killers in the entire game because he just shuts down everything. Like that's basically what he does. He just shuts down everything. So I think he's really good for that. Wesker is also an A tier. Honestly, I don't really have much to talk about with Wesker just because I don't really know much about Wesker. He's like the least played killer I have. I really don't play Wesker. I'm not a big fan of Wesker himself, and which is weird as a Blight main. I should, but I don't know. I just don't like him that much. But he has a really strong ability. Uh, it, I think he's really good. There's a lot of things going for him. What's that? So I don't think I think his power is pretty good. I think everything about him is like honestly like pretty strong. Like his double rush is pretty good. Good distance. The glaring weakness I think is just window fakes, but I'm sure when you get enough experience with him, that's never an issue anymore. Uh, Ouroboros is really good map pressure. It's also just a really strong ability, and the fact that when you're fully infected, you're just insta downable for the entire game until like you cleanse. And by insta downable, I mean if you get hit by his power. I think it's still really strong. I think he's overall a really good killer. I don't think there's any like problems I have with him as a killer. I think he's really strong. Uh, like honestly, like really good chase power, good movement power, good everything. Like good map presence, like kind of everything. And he's really good at scaring off people. And he's actually a really good Starstruck user because of the fact that his terror rays covers the entire fucking map. But yeah, I still think he's a really good killer, even if I don't really necessarily know really much to talk about him, just because he's like probably my least played killer. Actually, no, I'm lying. That would be Knight. Knight I think is B tier. Even though I suck against going against him, I'll put him over here. Uh, Knight is really strong. His guards feel a lot less oppressive now. Like it feels like you can actually escape them sometimes. One thing I hate about playing against Knight is that it feels like the flags take like 20 fucking years for them to like finally spawn in. And I granted I know like it shouldn't be like 5 seconds, but like it feels like I have to wait 20 seconds to be in chase before I can finally like get rid of the guard if he's not by me. But I think he's a pretty strong killer. His guards are really good. Uh, really good at holding down gens and whatnot. So he's really good defense. He's also really good offense. Um, I just think he's a really strong killer personally. Like I don't think he's super good. But I think he's still really strong in his own right, and he kind of has his own makeshift spirit phase with the guard summon. So I think he's overall pretty good. So last six. So singularity, I'm going an A tier. Um, excuse me. So after the buffs he had, I think he's insanely strong. The amount of killer instinct you get is so good. So much information that you get with him. He's a really strong defense killer. He's a really strong offense killer. His chase potential is really good. He's really good at shutting down loops and different tiles with the fact that when you're in overclock, you break pallets, kick gens, and vault 75% faster, which is ludicrous. And if you like pair that with bamboozle, it's even like it's so stupid. Like having a 91% increase to your vault is the wildest shit I've ever heard. It's crazy, but yeah, I think he's a really strong killer. He has really amazing map presence. Like there's so much map presence, and the side and the map, like the gen pressure and just general map pressure you have with the survivor's name to do the side quest of getting EMPs are really strong. I think like they're not super like strong, but like they're really good at like deterring and like kind of forcing survivors to do like side objectives to like win the game. I think they're really good. So I actually personally have a personal vendetta though against Xenomorph. Xenomorph, I think they're B. Honestly, my top B. There's like quite a few glaring weaknesses Xenomorph has, specifically her tail attack hitbox. But I just feel like sometimes like it just doesn't. It's like a hatchet hitbox. Sorry, like sometimes it does not look like it should hit at all, and other times it looks like it should have hit, but it just doesn't. I just feel like it's kind of weird the hitbox. I don't appreciate though that the fact in like certain tiles, there's like literally nothing a survivor can do to like go against you, because like uh crouch teching doesn't fucking work, because like at least most of the time I always aim for like the feet or like the legs, because I found it really annoying when I played Xeno where I was aiming for the chest and they just crouch and they dodge it, so I just started aiming for the legs, so that would never happen. But the problem is like when you're going against, like if you're on like a 4 lane, you're fucked. Like you're just fucked, because there's nothing you can do, because you can't dodge out of the way. You can't crouch tech them unless they don't go for your legs or whatnot. So you're just fucked. And I don't find that exactly fun. Like as a killer main, I don't find it fun when like I have a power, and granted, it's not the power's fault. It's just like how like the map spawns and like how the power like forces you to play the tiles. But I don't find it fun when I have a power or when I'm playing in a way that makes it where there's literally no counterplay. Like I've that's why I like playing Blight, because there's so much counterplay survivors can do. That's why I like playing like Singularity and Dredge, because they can just hold W to leave the tiles or whatnot. But with like Nurse and Xenomorph, it just feels like there's nothing you can do in some scenarios, and it just honestly feels like you're always getting fucking railed by them, and it just doesn't feel that much like it's a lot of fun. But I still think Xenomorph is a pretty balanced killer all around. Like it's not her fault that like maybe like 10 out of like the 50 different like tiles, or like maybe there's 6 tiles in the game that make it where like it's almost impossible to do anything counterplay wise. So I'm fine with looking over it, because I still think they're a pretty cool killer. But I'm gonna just keep them B. They might be A tier, but I just don't think that they are, because permanent counterplay and the turrets are an actual bitch. And if with good turret placements, fire flame turrets, you're basically out of power for like the next minute. Uh, Chucky. Chucky, actually, I think he's at the top of A tier. This guy is a monster. Um, actually, here's what I'm gonna do. Actually, I'm gonna move you to the top of D because like I'm looking at this now and I don't agree with that actually. I think Ghostface is over there, and I'm actually gonna move Nemesis down here. I'm gonna put him like behind there. I'm gonna put you over there, and then I'll put you there. Yeah, okay, there you go. Sorry about that. Chucky is 100% in my opinion top of A tier. He is an absolute fucking menace as a stealth killer. I think he's the best stealth killer in the entire game. Uh, I think he's just absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like he's a 4.4. He's very small, so he's really hard to mind game at certain tiles. It feels almost impossible because you can't see him at all. So it's very hard for visual cues, and because he can just go undetectable mid chase with his power, it makes like some walls like some of the most unsafe fucking pallets in the world. Like it's so bad sometimes some of his pallets. It's like that one pallet on the RPD where you can just straight up swing over it while they're vaulting. That's how unsafe his like going against his power feels like sometimes with certain tiles. It's so good. Like his power is so good for stuff like that. Like really good at mind gaming. His power is also just cracked as fuck. The rush is really good. The fact he can like scamper under pallets and vault Windows mid like power, I think is really good. Um, One thing though, like this is just a personal thing. Like I hate the fact that it always feels like Chucky has some sort of exploit that he can use. Like I've died quite a few times recently to like the new Chucky exploit where they'll go to like the corner of a window and they'll do that thing where like they're permanently in scamper mode but without like being stuck in the like rush. So like be in scamper mode or whatnot, like forever until like they get the down. I think it's just really messed up. But I think he's really strong. Like his scamper, there is a quite a bit of play, like things you can do to play around it, but he kind of falls into the same category of blight, where you like depending on how good your pre-turn is, will determine how good your flicks are with Chucky. So I do like that about him. He also feels very fast. Sorry. Oh my god, sorry. But I've always thought that he's been pretty strong. And I just think he's a really good killer with his power. I think there's still quite a bit of like counterplay survivors can do, but there's also like a good amount of counterplay you as Chucky player can do to counterplay their counterplay by like pre-turning or taking certain vaults or windows or just using your power for mind games. So yeah, uh, unknown. I don't think he's A tier. I don't think he's A tier. I think he's like B tier. Unknown is pretty good. Like being able to dodge his thing is it's not the hardest thing, but it's also not the easiest. He's really rewarding. He gets rewarded extremely like he has a very high risk high rewards type thing with being out of line of sight because his UVX can hit through like walls. So you can get injuries through walls or like even like on floors above you if you angle your thing right. So he has a very nice high risk, high reward system. But that also comes at the cost of the survivor. If they're being aware, they can just like not hug the wall or like not be where like you're shooting at, right? So I think he's pretty strong. I think his teleport, I think he actually has the best teleport in the entire game, even better than Dredge's because it is literally instantaneous like Hags, but I think his is better because it can be done at any point around the map. Uh, so I do really like playing Unknown. I think his power isn't very underwhelming. I think it's actually quite balanced. And also the only thing I wish is that the hindrance effect you get when you hit somebody with the UVX like directly was a little bit higher because I feel like it almost like falls in the same category of old Nemesis Hinder, like where it would do like basically fucking nothing. So that's my only wish. Vecna, is, oh God, I actually don't know where to put him. Mainly that's because I don't really see a lot of Vecnas, and I've never played him once, even though I have him on my PlayStation, because I bought him there, not on the Xbox. But I think he's like A tier. Very low A. I think he's bottom of A tier. Um, he's pretty strong, honestly. Like his skeletons, there's a lot of attacks you can do with the skeletons. Uh, there's counterplay survivors can do, but it's not a lot, granted. At least with skeletons. His fly, I think, is really good. Uh, his dispelling sphere, I think, is super underrated. Even when I've played against it, I always find that he gets value from it in some shape or form. Like that's the most unexpected way too. And his hand, the pick up pallet thing, I think is really good, but only on short loops. Because if you're on a long loop, you're basically just gonna be stuck without your power, and you're just gonna there's no reason because you're just gonna be eating two stunts. Because if they drop the pallet right, you pick it up. If it's a long loop, like for example, like if you're on the loop at on RPD, like the one in the office where like the pallet can spawn at the end of that like desk area, if you drop that survivor, he picks up with the hand, you'll be able to make the distance around, and you can just drop the pallet on him again because the hand will despawn when you make it around the second time. So I think the hand is quite strong, but only in like the scenarios of like where you're at shorter tiles, because otherwise you just don't get any value from it. But I do think Vecna is pretty strong, so I'm gonna keep him there. I kind of wish I had a little bit more to talk about him, and as well as Dracula, because but I haven't played them enough, or I just haven't played against them enough to like give my personal thoughts of like how I think I would rate them. So uh yeah. So finally is Dracula. So Dracula, I think I think he's actually like kind of like over here. And like I might be completely off base with this. Um, but I might not be, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell for sure, just because I haven't played him enough. Uh, I think his Hellfire is so good now. Like it's way, way better than it was in the PTB. Like now it like feels like it's instantaneous. It's really good at shutting down a bunch of loops. And the nice thing about it is it also works the same way as cracks and crevices. So you can like fire it through like objects and stuff with it, which I think is really nice. Like shorter loops, you can just shoot it and it'll go through. And if you're like at and I saw this quite a few times on Twitter, where this guy I forget his name, but he's already P100 on Dracula. Like the guy's an actual goat. But he did this clip where like on the shack at Dead Dog, he like shot through like this crack, like this break in the boards of the wall at Killer Shack, and it went through, and it went all the way through Killer Shack and it hit the guy inside. So like there's a lot of really cool potential, and I just think that once I see more and the killer's more explored, I think he could even be S tier potentially, but that's a big that's a big maybe. But I think he's actually really strong where he is. His bat form I think is a little weak, but I just don't feel like he's been explored enough as a killer to like really say what he's good at yet. I think his bat form though definitely needs like a bit of a tweak though. Like I think it's a little bit on the weaker side. His wolf form is kind of good. Like it's not super crazy, but like most of the time I'll see like them utilizing his main form instead of wolf form. But yeah, I think that's kind of it. So honestly, I had a couple hot takes here. I honestly think the killers in this game are like overall pretty strong. Like there are some that I just don't think are that good. Um, like it's unfortunate because like I really like playing Pig, but they're just I don't think they're that strong. Uh, this is my S tier though. I kind of think you could no, actually no, no. Billy's definitely above Huntress. Let me just see if there's anything else that I would maybe say. I'll actually here's I'll do that. I'm gonna change you to be there. Actually, I'm actually gonna retract this. I think you're B tier actually. This is like last second changes. Uh, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And actually, I'm gonna put Legion in C tier, above Trapper though. And that's just because he really is just like an M1 killer. He like there's really nothing really going for him. So yeah, and that's it. That's pretty much the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys think I'm fucking insane for thinking these or having these takes, please tell me in the comments. Uh, for anyone that does view, um, I hope you guys liked the video, and that's all I have for you guys today. So see ya.